This is a special broadcast on Times Now at a time when people are talking about the storm in the parliament, the showdown between Team India and Team N.D.A. And a lot has been said and written about the role of the Prime Minister. I have with me a special guest who needs no introduction. Senior journalist, columnist, political commentator, veteran who's tracked Indian politics for more than 3 decades, Neerja Choudhury, who's come out with this new book, a copy of which is in my hand, How Prime Ministers Decide. Mrs. Choudhury, thank you for speaking to Times Now. Congratulations on the book. I've gone through the book. I want to ask you about the title. How did you decide that this should be a book about how the Prime Ministers decide?
Look, for a very long time, I've covered Indian politics now for almost just under 40 years. And right from the beginning, what fascinated me was, what was revealed to the public was not really the reality inside. How decisions were made at the top was a very different ball game. The pulls, the pressures, the underbelly of Indian politics, the power brokers, the attendants, the backroom boys. It was a very different story, and I've always, for the last 20 years at least, I've been toying with the idea that this must be penned down. And there must be many journalists, those of us who cover politics, who have stories which I was privy to and had access to and had people talk to me about them. So this is something I wanted to write about, how prime ministers decide.
Now, Mrs. Choudhury, the book, and I have a copy of it, runs into more than 600 pages. Let's talk about some of the key decisions that you've talked about in the book. One recurring theme, and correct me if I'm wrong, that runs through the book is the vote bank politics and the Congress. Would you like to talk about it?
Yes, I have taken 6 prime ministers. Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Vishwanath Pratap Singh, P.V. Narasimha Rao, Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Dr. Manmohan Singh. And I have looked at major decisions made by them. For Indira Gandhi, I decided not to go for the creation of Bangladesh or the emergency. Much has been written. What fascinated me was why in 1977 she decided to go for elections which threw her out of power. And that is a theme that tantalizes people even today. And how in 33 months she bounced back to power, having been totally routed in North India. So it was a fascinating story that I wanted to capture. Rajiv Gandhi, who came to power with an unprecedented, unbroken majority of 414 Lok Sabha seats, he was down to 197 in the elections in 1989. And this man who thought, wanted to take India into the 21st century, thought futuristically, brought down the voting age to 18, had the anti-defection law, went in for accords to problems that had plagued the country, Assam Accord, Punjab Accord, Mizoram Accord. He was bogged down by caste and community, something I feel he did not understand, and was, while well-meaning, sincere and wanted it had been given under the Criminal Procedure Code, and Muslim community was irate, so Rajiv Gandhi wanted to undo that judgment and went in for what was called the Muslim Women Bill.
Right.
And then the Hindus got very agitated, so he facilitated the opening of the locks at the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid disputed structure. And he fell between 2 stools. He got neither votes of neither community. So that was also very fascinating how this all happened. Then, of course, Vishwanath Pratap Singh, we know the Mandal decision to give job reservations to the backward classes, which has changed the political landscape of India for all time to come. So then I went for P.V. Narasimha Rao, whose was the classic non-decision of not being able to save the Babri Masjid from being demolished. So again,
I just want to stop you there because we are talking about Mr. Rao and the Babri Masjid. Ms. Choudhury, you've written about P.V. Narasimha Rao telling a journalist after demolition of Babri Masjid, and I'm quoting from the book, Dada, you think I don't know politics? I was born in Rajniti. I have been doing politics till today. Jo hua, wo theek hua. मैंने इसलिए होने दिया कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी की मंदिर की राजनीति हमेशा के लिए खत्म हो जाए.
You know, a group of journalists had gone to see Rao about a week after the demolition, and they were led by Nikhil Chakravarti, who was a editor of this magazine called Mainstream, but he was a long-standing friend of Narasimha Rao. He was, I would say, a near confidant of Narasimha Rao. And there were others, Prabhas Joshi, Ram Bahadur Rai, and Nikhil Chakravarti said to Rao, we heard that when the masjid was being brought down, you were doing puja or sleeping. That was the buzz in Delhi that day. So Rao got very provoked and he said what you have just read. You think I don't know Rajniti? I allowed it to happen because he wanted to take away the Hindu plank from the hands of the Bharatiya Janata Party. So it is, you know, again, it's a very interesting story. You know, Rao was known for, he once said he was known for non-decision, dithering. But my own study reveals Rao was not a ditherer. That non-decision that he used to say, no, non-decision
is also a decision. Not taking a decision is also a decision. That's right.
Is also a decision. Is also a decision. So when he did not want to take a decision, he would resort to this, you know, dithering. But he knew exactly what he wanted, because when the economy was liberalized in 1991, he took hours to take that major decision. So there are many instances of many.
But ma'am, in the context of Babri demolition, does that make him complicit?
Deliberately.
What is your view?
Look, did he collude with the BJP to bring it down, which some people believe? There is no evidence to suggest that he actually colluded. But there is evidence, circumstantial, and also people I've quoted to suggest that he knew that this is one of the things that might happen, and he thought he would get rid of a festering sore. And what is also quoted in the book is that he wanted to build a temple there himself.
No, the reason I'm asking you this, Mrs. Choudhury, because at the end of that chapter on Narasimha Rao, you write that there was every possibility that Rao had an inkling that there were plans afoot to demolish the structure, which is why the question comes, do you believe that he did not do enough to prevent it?
Yes, I think he did not do enough to prevent it. He knew, and the leaders of RSS, I've quoted somebody who they had talked to, said we had informed Rao in advance to get this might happen and to get ready to for that eventuality.
That's interesting, and we'll come to talk about that aspect of you know, the RSS and the Congress. But let me ask you, because we are talking about Babri Masjid and Ayodhya, there's another interesting bit about the Vatican type status for Ayodhya. What was this story?
Look, you know, when the RSS announced Kar Seva at the end of October that year, 1992, that they would hold it on 6 December in Ayodhya, then, you know, action began to mount, and Narasimha Rao was wanting to buy time at that. You know, he wanted a resolution. He thought maybe through the court route something may happen. Initially he did do that, and dialogue with the sons and the Muslim clerics, all that he did. And then when the Kar Seva was announced, he felt maybe he wouldn't be able to save it, but he was still trying to buy time. Various formula were being explored. And Kishore Kunal, who was helping him, who was in the CISF, had gone to see him and suggested that one solution could be that Ayodhya, Faizabad and Nandigram, the area around, could be made into a union territory. And he said to him, you can tell Mulayam Singh, look, we couldn't trust Kalyan Singh, that that he will actually protect the mosque, so I had to do this. And the left and Mulayam Singh and Congress may accept it. And also you can tell the BJP and the RSS and VHP that actually you will be giving Vatican type of status to Ayodhya, and they will be very happy. And he had also talked to the Shahi Imam of Jama Masjid, who also was okay with it. So Narasimha Rao was very enthusiastic about this idea and told him to prepare an ordinance. So an ordinance was got to him a day later, but then everything went thanda.
No, so you're saying that everything was planned, the ordinance was ready, but somehow it fell through.
Somehow he did not pursue it after that. You know, there was the resistance from the other mediators, there was resistance from the officials, so he did not go ahead. But certainly this was an idea under serious consideration.
That's a headline, that's a revelation, really, Vatican-type status for Ayodhya. In fact, you've written in your book that, you know, I'm quoting now, he had wanted to build a temple himself on the same spot where the Babri Masjid stood, which he hoped would enable him to become a savior of Hindus, but lost interest in the project in 1995. Once again, this was Congress eyeing the Hindu vote.
You know, he was aware that you could not antagonize the Hindus, that it was a Hindu majority state. And in fact, I have quoted Shahid Siddiqui, Urdu editor, who had at that time, you know, helping with the manifesto, Congress manifesto. He was close to Rajiv Gandhi, and he had gone to see Narasimha Rao, who was in charge of the manifesto committee, and he had said, I suggested, you know, welfare things for Muslims, and Narasimha Rao had said to him कि आपकी पार्टी में तो सिर्फ मुसलमानों के बारे में सोचा जाता है, हिंदू तो मैटर ही नहीं करते हैं. That kind of a comment which had taken Siddiqui you know, by surprise. So that also I have quoted in the book.
Now, in fact, in the book you've also, you know, I'm reminded of what you've written about Rajiv Gandhi. In fact, it is here in front of me. The Arun Nehru advised Rajiv Gandhi that that after the Shah Bano fiasco, they should be actually coming up with another plan. And the plan was that Rajiv Gandhi was asked to bat for uniform civil code, abrogation of Article 370, construction of a temple in Ayodhya.
That's right. This is what Arun Nehru had told Rajiv, and that, you know, unless you do that, you will not be able to retain the support of the Hindus who voted for you big time in 1984. And it was a very cynical Arun Nehru who said this, you know, for you to win, 5,000 people died. That also I have quoted. So Arun Nehru thought Rajiv was naive, that there needed to be consolidation and an other, so in quote, unquote, to go for. And Rajiv Gandhi was much more, you know, wanting solutions to problems. He was the rising star. He was seen as the hope of the country. As I said, wanting to take India into the 21st century, 6 technology missions. That was the kind of thing he was doing. And this thing, the reason why he had won in 1984 was because of the Sikhs who were, you know, killed, and the Hindus consolidated. And, you know, it was that politics which, apart from sympathy after Indira Gandhi's assassination, all that, you know, all that is history and we are familiar with it.
There's another interesting bit that you've mentioned in your book, and this is how you've tracked the relationship of the RSS with the Congress. Indira Gandhi spoke to the RSS even during the emergency. Rajiv dealt with both the VHP and the RSS in the build-up to the opening of the locks in Ayodhya. Narasimha Rao, of course, you've mentioned that in great detail, dealt with the RSS over negotiations in Ayodhya. But is this now all a thing of the past? Now you know, if you juxtapose that with the acrimony of the politics now, the relations between the RSS and the Congress, and the positions that Rahul Gandhi, some of the others in the Congress have taken?
I think, you know, it's not that Indira Gandhi subscribed to the ideology of RSS, but as a, you know, as a pragmatic politician who understood the nature of power and statecraft and the ground realities of India, you know, she always wanted independent information about what the RSS was doing, not only relying on the official channels. She always had people in the RSS she was in touch with right from 1970 onwards. And it was not just at the time of the emergency. In 1977, she sent a message to them because the RSS chief had been writing letters to her, but she was not responding. And then they used Vinoba Bhave to reach out to her. And then she sent a message back saying, Sangh chunav se alag ho jaye, you know, leave Janata Party. But of course they said it was too late. They were already committed to the Janata Party. Chunav ke baad we will get in touch. And also I say, quoting people, that the RSS supported her in 1980 elections also. She believed that herself. And you know, it was how she could use them, and they on their part, because she had this Hindu persona after 97.
But do you believe that can be a template for the Congress to now use now, the Indira template of outreach to the RSS, of at least having a dialogue?
I think, you know, in our country, one of the most unfortunate things today is the bitterness that's crept in between the ruling side and the opposition. I don't know what is the way out, what is the way forward. You know, in a democracy you have opponents, and that's where the relationship between, say, Vajpayee and politicians across other parties, Vajpayee and Narasimha Rao, you know, where you pick up the phone and can say, look, this is what of course they wanted personal things to be done also.
Right.
But you know, this is what can be done. Today that is simply not possible. And a dialogue in a democracy is a must. You may violently disagree with the opinion of the other side. But if dialogue is given up, then it's not a good thing for the country.
Mrs. Choudhury, very quickly, before I let you go, two quick questions. One thing that stands out in the book, one theme actually that stands out is how you write about the rise of the office of the Prime Minister, the PMO. So could you tell us about that?
Look, you know, Jawaharlal Nehru's PMO was very low-key. There was just one official. And he relied on his ministers, all of whom were stalwarts. And they had an autonomy of functioning. At Indira Gandhi's time, it became a very powerful PMO under P.N. Haksar. And those were really, the Haksar years were her golden years. When she, you know, Bangladesh and getting rid of the syndicate, coming into her own as a leader, and so on. So hers was a very powerful. You know, the more powerful the leader, the more powerful the PMO. That has been, again with Narendra Modi, I have not looked at a Modi decision in this book. But that is also, it's a very powerful PMO. The ministers are not powerful in that sense. So, you know, I would say, people say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But I would add another thing, that power also makes the incumbent at the top very lonely, and a more powerful incumbent even more lonely. It's a very lonely place at the top, where the buck stops with you, and you have to take major decisions which affect millions and billions of people.
You have, in fact, I have that quote from your book, whether they want it or not, the highest office distances the leader from the people. This is the exact quote from your book. You've said this, that it's really lonely at the top. Very quickly, ma'am, my final question to you is, why have you not included Prime Minister Modi in this book? Is this because his term is still on?
Yes. You know, I very seriously considered it. I even started to work on it. And then I felt, you know, it's work in progress. His term is, he is making a bid for a third term. The risk of getting dated. I wouldn't have the advantage of hindsight to be able to assess as I have with the other prime ministers. But above all, you know, when there is an incumbent prime minister, people are very wary about talking freely. Right. Giving you information, which is an advantage I've had with the other prime ministers. So I decided, and you know, if it didn't do justice as with the other prime minister, because Prime Minister Modi, you may like him, you may not like him, he's brought about a paradigm shift in Indian politics and needs to be assessed properly. So that's a project I've left for the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Neerja Choudhury. Pleasure as always speaking to you. We hope that this book, How Prime Ministers Decide, is a huge success. Congratulations once again and all the best. Thank you for speaking to Times Now, ma'am.